But with that, Jason.
Fill them up.
You're up.
A little delayed, I'll forgive you. It's okay. I'm supposed to do a little introduction. I think where I'm going to start here, though, is 425. That's how many times my face would hit the snow if I was the skier in this photo. So the reason I chose this title today was because I love this image so much. And this is my attempt to make myself more comfortable up here as I tell you this story. So if you could all smile for me, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Again, my name is Jason Wheeler. I started my career actually not too far from here in Culver City in the photography industry. I've had a chance to, I've really had I've had a chance to work with quite a few creative teams. And in that experience, what I've learned is that their success is not always determined by whether or not they're the most creative. Now, what I've learned is that their success is because they're reliable, adaptable, and intrinsically competitive. And what I mean by that is they have a drive for improvement. And it's interesting because at Columbia, all new employees are given a book by our founder, Boutwell. I don't know if you know much about our culture, but she was very ballsy. She drove the team. She drove the company to be very successful. And that was the first time I was introduced to her quote, which is, "It's perfect. Let's make it better." Right? And what I love about that quote is that it's a drive for improvement, right? Even when things seem to be running smooth. And this is the type of values that we look for at Columbia. It's the type of values that we've looked for in our team members and in our partnerships.
And this is also not saying that creativity is not important.
Absolutely.
No.
Correct. As we know, creativity is a part of our business. It's what we're ultimately judged on, right? But that drive for improvement and being reliable is very, very important. Okay, so in the early years when I started working at Columbia, we were going through this really rapid growth. And so we started with really low volume on mannequin photography. We were pushing out maybe 60 to 100 images a day, and we exploded, right? We got new leadership in, we started working with OnModel, and started producing hundreds of images a day. And the first portion of operation to strain wasn't our creativity, right? We had lots of that. But what we started to notice was that it was our post-production that started to strain first, right? So we had added automation where we could. We had also, scaled our team. We had gone from like 2 people to maybe 7 people
in-house
at various
automation.
times, in-house, right, to handle this volume. But it had gotten to a point where we really had to start looking for a leverage partner which could help us with our future growth and the volatility. And so it was interesting. We reached out to Pixelz, and that decision was really guided by like these fundamental principles that I still use to kind of help me decide how to make decisions when things get really tricky. It's this idea, and I'm going to move into workflow a little bit.
Yeah.
And these kind of help really describe why we placed Pixelz in those workflows where we have, right? So we want to design for movement, not motion. And I think so oftentimes in our organizations, we get stuck with process. And we're constantly trying to solve like the individual problem, the process, trying to make that more efficient. But what we don't do is really look at the broader workflow and look how our assets or how the work is moving through that process. What are the handoffs looking like, right?
Very similar.
Yeah. How do we bounce those assets back and forth? How do we bounce that work back and forth, right? Automate the repeatable, pretty straightforward. We're going to look for areas within our operation where there's a lot of repetition. And we're not looking to replace work per se, right? We want our teams to be able to focus their time and energy.
Get rid of non-value add.
Yeah, we want them to focus their time and energy where they can add the most value. And third is going to be absorbing volume with structure. Right? And this is, again, building structures within our organization that can not only handle the volume we have today, but also really looking into the future, looking at projected growth, and making sure that those workflows are going to be able to ebb and flow with that upcoming volume.
And handle the peaks and the valleys.
Absolutely, yeah, that volatility. So working with Pixelz really early on, we developed 2 base workflows that we use in our day-to-day operation. This is our first one. We call it an exceptions workflow. And we really created Pixelz as the cornerstone in our workflows, in which, after capture, all of our work is going to run to Pixelz first for a standard set of services. You did a great job at kind of explaining and breaking that down, what that is. Thank you, because now I don't have to. And what's beautiful about that is this is handling anywhere from a couple hundred to thousands of images per day and saving, I think I did the calculations, we're saving anywhere from 20 to 30,000 hours of work a year by running these assets. So, I mean, very significant,
Yes.
right?
Measurable.
We've set this up so that, using Pixelz platform, we can easily do rejects, we can ask for additional changes, and, if there's any other additional work that we want to do, we can easily bring those back into our internal post team, which we still have a small operation, and they can do a little polishing and then send those off.
How big was your internal team?
We started with 2, and then we had some contractors. We scaled up to like around 7. Now we're
Yeah.
at around 3 to 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second workflow is a hybrid workflow. Again, very similar to the first workflow. We have Pixelz as kind of that cornerstone within the workflow. This one here, though, we have our internal post team as required. So we're going to flow images to Pixelz. They're going to do their standard set of services. We're then going to ensure that they come into our internal post team for an extra treatment before shipping those off for delivery.
And you choose, I guess it's different types of categories of work that will get this type of treatment. Some stuff we edit,
Correct.
it goes straight to site. Some stuff it goes straight to the team to do a final layer on top, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so what was great about both these workflows is that they've allowed us to scale. The goal was momentum, right? We want to make sure that this structure is not going to prevent the work from moving forward. We want our teams to be able to stay focused, and we want to ensure that quality is staying intact. So let's look at a few examples.
Yeah.
So Columbia brand, we are Columbia. They're largest. They offer our studio the largest volume per year. And not too long ago, this was really interesting. We had a creative direction change, which actually happened after we had already started production, right? And so during that transition, we had identified around 15,000 carryover images that were going to need a background update in order to align with that new creative direction so that our site looked more consistent, right? And so this wasn't going to be any type of high-touch, extra creative work. This was really an exercise in repetitive change at scale, right? And so we were able to work with Pixelz.
But it's an interesting case, though, right?
It's a very interesting
to
case,
be
right?
able
Yeah.
to pivot and do art direction when you have tons of products that are actually live on site, and to not have these messy PLP pages where you have mixed art direction all showing at one time to be able to just take one sprint and do everything at once.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was the goal, right? To try and make it more consistent. May not have been 100% perfect at the end, but we were trying to make the whole website more consistent where we could. And so we were able to hand all these images off to Pixelz, worked with Leanne, our customer service, and she got the template built for us. We started sending images to chunks. They started flowing back to us within 24 hours, and we got those delivered on time, which is great. The final result was a much more elevated website for the brand, as we talked about, and the goal was to create a much more cohesive viewing experience for our consumer. Sorel is a really interesting case study as well, where it is by volume the smallest of the brands within our portfolio, but offers us, and anybody that works with footwear knows it can be rather complex, right? Yeah. And so for years we had a really stable style guide, and we had actually created automation for this before we had onboarded Pixelz. And so our workflow looked like this, which is a hybrid workflow where we would send all the images to Pixelz. They would do their standard set of services for us, which was removing pins, cleaning up the footwear, doing a little bit of background cleanup. And then they would actually come into our internal post team where we had an automation specialist dedicated to this to run our automation to ensure that all the footwear was aligned, images were scaled correctly, and the final crops were applied before sending those off.
But
And
then
so
art direction changes.
that happens. Then there's an art direction change. So we all love these, right? This one, of course, came to us before, or with very little time to pivot. Again, kind of a theme to this is that, Pixelz has really been able to help us ebb and flow with changes that come, whether or not we have enough time to scale internally or not. And so art direction change hits, we're left with very little time, but the linchpin to this one is that internal automation that we had now needed a significant update in order to be able to handle the changes that were required. And so Oh, and it's worth noting that our automation specialist no longer worked for us. They moved on. So now we're kind of stuck, right? We can work with some other dev, teams within the company. We can try and get this going. But what we decided to do is take a chance, and we really lean into our partnership with Pixelz on this, right? And we go, hey, we're going to share our automation with you. We're also going to share the creative deck with you. Can you make something happen for us? And up to the plate, right? They got the new automation up and running, which was great. All of our footwear alignment expectations were achieved and met. We also added, I think, a couple new curveballs at you within this one that you were able to figure out for us, and we were able to flow these images through.
I mean, it does sound like a simple thing, right? We're just talking about padding a few percent here, a few pixels here and there, but like it's challenging to do at scale when you have this many views as well.
So we were talking about this. We were actually talking about this portion of it, right, which is the metadata. So an interesting feature within this is what we needed a way to scale the footwear, whether it was youth, a kid, or like an adult, right? And so we had to come up with a process in which we would feed Pixelz metadata around what the gender or what the size group was for that footwear so that they could accurately scale it within the image correctly. And so the other advantage to this is we were able to take what was a hybrid workflow where our team was required, and we were able to migrate that into our exceptions workflow, where now Pixelz is taking on the heavy lifting of all of that footwear, leaving our team the ability to really be able to focus on quality control and any specialized work that needs to be done with footwear, which for us is quite a bit actually, because we get a lot of footwear changes for first adopt footwear. Samples are not always correct.
And the team handles if the sample does not match what the final product is after retouch.
Right. Good. So final result, much more elegant website for the Sorel brand, and it was a smooth flow of over 12,000 images a year that we're able to push through this process.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so a couple years ago, about 2 years ago now, we had the opportunity to bring our last brand within the portfolio in-house, which is Prana, right? And along with them, we are now producing an additional 33,000 images for the brand. There was a brand new set of requirements that had come along, and we're also doing a much more color-critical workflow for this brand in particular.
When did Prana come on board?
What was that?
When did Prana come on board?
A little over 2 years ago. Yeah. Just don't look at that.
I won't look at that.
And so what was interesting about Prana, I spoke about the color critical workflow. Well, I guess it's worth saying that this is really a good example of how we've been able to scale with Pixelz very quickly, right? 33,000 images, that's not a small amount, and we were able to easily reach out to Pixelz to absorb that volume. And because we already have these workflow structures set up, and because we already have such a good relationship, it was really smooth getting them integrated into our system, plugging them in, and getting them online with Pixelz. And so color, I know Alo had talked a lot about how they're matching all of the color
all the different
across
types
their
of
production
types.
types. Yeah. This is very similar to that example here, right? Where we're going to shoot flats of all of the images that Prana has for a season. And we run those through a hybrid workflow. So we're going to send those over to Pixelz. They're going to do a standard set of services, clean those up, take out pins. But then we're going to bring those in-house and do a color critical check on each one of the images against the product. And after those are approved, those become our color key for all future production, right? Ensuring that everything is consistent. Now we do this with physical product, not with CADs.
Does Prana have colors that last multiple seasons?
They do, but because we're already shooting flats, it's easier for us just to go ahead and color correct them.
Easy.
Yeah, super easy. And so where we've seen the most value in this, of course, is around model photography, right? Because we shoot head to toe, we shoot the full outfit, and those outfits are outfitted head to toe with Prana. And one of Prana's requirements was that we really want the color of a bathing suit that's a hero to be the same as a bathing suit that's a secondary. Reasonable, right? And video. We would also like our video to be color corrected as well. So we're able to take these color keys and send them along with the on-model images to Pixelz, and Pixelz is able to color correct and do that color work for us, saving us thousands of hours in color correction that we'd otherwise have to do for the brand. Yeah. Final result here, of course, is a much more elevated website, and we've been able to meet the brand's expectation for high-res imagery and color consistently across the website.
Great. That looks good. I mean, just going back to the first slide of that volume where it was a few hundred images here and there to multiple thousand.
Yeah.
It's been a heck of a process, Jason.
It has.
Yeah. Good. But maybe we can just, I think we can take a minute. I'm eating into Q&A time here, but we could take a minute, show a little bit of the images on your website, on the Pixelz platform, and then we can go into some Q&A.
Go ahead. Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, just while you're pulling that up, that we hadn't brought Pixelz into our workflow to replace our team's expertise, right?
It's supplement.
The idea was that we would bring Pixelz into our workflow, make them cornerstone of our workflow, so we could really protect where our team's expertise mattered the most.
And I think that's kind of been the theme too between both of you. It's not looking to replace, it's looking to scale and build systems around it instead of replacing the team. It's letting them do what they're best at and what they like at, not removing pins and dust that's on a shoe. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. Good. But yeah, this is just a few of the latest stuff. This is more the latest e-com work that we have from Columbia. And this is, of course, on the new background. Some before and after, some background work, some crease retouch, outputting swatches for the website. And yeah, but not to take too much time. And again, if anybody wants to hear a little bit more about Jason or Mieko's story, you can feel free to pull them aside at the break and talk to them.